What are some unbreakable things? Maybe we can say iron, steel, concrete, and in many cases, of course, they're breakable. But there's something that is sometimes very difficult to break, and it's man. There is a part in, I'll read a verse first in John chapter 12:24. Jesus says, "Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. But if it die, it will bear much fruit." Like man sometimes is unbreakable. There's a part of him that is very difficult to break. And of course, there's another side of man that he breaks very easy. But in the book of Job, we see this story of Job. And at the end of the book, God begins to speak. And he talks of the magnificent things that he has done, laying the foundations of the earth, the stars in the universe, causing the animals to come, the rain cycles, and all the marvelous things. Then he talks about these great creatures, the behemoth and the leviathan, possibly dinosaurs, whatever they are great creatures. But then God says this: "Hast thou an arm like God, or can thou thunder with a voice like him? Deck yourself now with majesty and excellency, and array yourself with glory and beauty. Cast abroad the rage of thy rod, and behold everyone that is a proud and a basin. Look on everyone that is proud, and bring him low, and tread down the wicked in their place. And then I will confess to thee that thine own hand can save thee." God is saying to Job, can you make the proud man low? Can you make the proud man humble? Like he's talking of these magnificent things he's doing. Like I said, laying the foundations of the earth, putting the stars in the universe, the cycles of the rain, the Leviathan, the Behemoth, causing the eagle to fly. And then he says, Job, can you make the proud low? Man is hard to break. We are proud creatures. And Jesus says, unless a kernel of wheat, a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. But if it die, it will bring forth much fruit. God is trying to break the pride in man, and he's trying to bring man low. Some are unbreakable. Some retain their pride, and that is our nature. That is the self nature of man. So this verse that Jesus says in the Gospel, John chapter 12, these Greeks come to Philip and Andrew and says, "Sir, we want to see Jesus." So Philip and Andrew come to Jesus and say, "Jesus, there are some Greeks who want to see you." And Jesus says, "Unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. But if it die, it will bring forth much fruit." And he seems to not understand the question. Jesus, that's very nice, but there's some Greeks who want to see you. But actually, that's his answer to the question: how will Greeks see me? Greeks will see me if you die and fall to the ground and perish, and then will bring forth much fruit. When your pride goes, when it is disintegrated as a grain of wheat gets into the soil and disintegrates, and the chemicals of the soil and the moisture and the sun cause it to break up, and then springs forth the new life of the wheat, then you will bear fruit. And then people will see Jesus when it is no longer your life, no longer yourself, but it is the life of Christ coming up through you. But that only comes through brokenness. That only comes through our pride being abased and low. Like we read in Job there, he says to Job, all those magnificent things. Can you deck yourself in majesty? Can you thunder your voice? Can you lay the foundations of the earth? Can you cause Leviathan, Behemoth, and all these tremendous things? Can you bring the proud low? And God is saying it's not easy. And God had to do that in the lives of Peter and Moses and Jacob and different people. And only after that brokenness occurred in them did they begin to become fruitful in their lives. Not fruitful from themselves, but the fruit of the Spirit came out of them. The life of Christ began to be seen. Sir, we would see Jesus, and then people began to see Jesus. And we just give a couple of examples as we finish. Like Peter, very proud, thought he was better than the other disciples, but then he failed. Then he denied Jesus 3 times, and that broke him. That really caused him to die to his own confidence, and his pride really broke. And from then on, the life of God started to come out through him. and the Spirit of God in his wonderful fruitfulness. In the book of Acts, we read so soon after that. In Moses said, knew he was going to be the deliverer of Egypt. And Stephen says in Acts, when he's speaking, that Moses, when he killed the Egyptian, thought the Jews would understand that God would bring deliverance by him. So at that early age of 40, Moses was to be the deliverer. But in his own self, in his own pride, as the prince of Egypt, as the man almighty in deed and in learning of Egypt, but it wasn't going to work, and he ran away, and he was 40 years on the backside of the desert as a shepherd, and had his family and his 2 sons. And in that time he was fully broken. In that fully time, the kernel of wheat, the grain of wheat, fell to the ground and died. And then a new Moses came up, a humble Moses, the meekest man on the earth. And this man started to manifest the life of Christ. And through this man, like the sign of the burning bush that saw and the bush wasn't consumed, the life and the fire of God in Moses came out. Any old bush will do. It didn't matter who Moses, didn't matter. It was this new life that was able to come out, this new fire that was able to come up through Moses and through you and I. But God will bring that breaking process. One way it was with Peter, another way it was with Moses. 20 years with Jacob and Laban, really conning him until he finally wrestled with God, and that breaking finally happened with him. How does he do it? It's not easy. He said to Job, you cannot bring the proud low. We cannot do it, but God can do it, and he is the one able to do that. And then, sir, we want to see Jesus. People will see Jesus only in our lives after the kernel of wheat has fallen to the ground and died. And then it will bring forth much fruit, and we thank God for this. Amen. Amen.